Good evening. 6 years after the Brexit referendum, 2.5 years after that Brexit deal, but now are Britain's relations with the EU at a lower point than ever? After months of speculation, this week it happened. The Prime Minister and Cabinet announced plans to change the Northern Ireland Protocol. The furious retaliation from the EU has been swift. They're taking Britain to court. Could we be on the threshold of a full-scale trade war just at the time when the economy can bear it the least? I'll be talking to Maroš Šefčovič, the EU's chief negotiator. Also tonight, Nicola Sturgeon's government in Scotland launched a new campaign for independence this week, a radical new plan or the same old tune that was defeated back in 2014. I'll talk to the man who led his country closer to independence than anyone else, Alex Salmond. A lot has happened to Mr Salmond since then. What does he make of his former protege's new push? And what is it like to be held in an Egyptian jail? Activist Sana Saif was sentenced to 18 months for spreading false news. Her brother's still being detained in and out of prison in Egypt for his role in the Arab Spring uprising of 2011. Sana and her family are fighting for his release. But should the British government be helping too? The family are, after all, British citizens. We hear their story. The Brexit agreement was put into turmoil this week when the government here decided to override the Northern Ireland Protocol. The EU Commission's called it unrealistic. I went to Brussels to speak to Vice President Maroš Šefčovič and get his reaction. Vice President, thanks for talking to us today. Let's start with the trying week. It's the difficult week. But before we do, can we reflect a bit, or you reflect on the relationship between London and Brussels? How bad do you think the current UK-EU relations are now compared with recent history?
From one side, I have to say that our cooperation on Ukraine and the global challenges is remarkable. This is how we would like to see it, because I always repeat that for us, the UK is a strategic partner, it's ally, it's eternal neighbour, and it's a very important commercial partner as well. So we would like really to kind of move our relationship on the greener pasture to really have that very well-functioning bilateral relationship. And of course, therefore, I have to say that if we are going to discuss still the pertinent Brexit issue, it's a pity that we have to spend so much time on them, especially when we need to build and consolidate this Western unity.
Is the Brexit difficulties bleeding into other areas of cooperation? Is it casting a shadow?
It is, because, of course, the EU-UK relationship is very massive. I mean, so we cooperate on lots of fields, and if you have the situation where after very arduous and difficult negotiations and agreement on the agreements like withdrawal agreement, Northern Ireland Protocol, and then, of course, the Trade and Cooperation Agreements. And we thought that we've done that, we agreed upon it, we ratified it, and we are still talking about it. And, of course, what is extremely sensitive for us and what is indeed very damaging for our relationship is this constant breaching of the international law, and that's something what we've been not used to from the UK.
On the breaching and that making it difficult from a European Union perspective, over the past few days, members of the European Parliament and the Darling Island have said they can't trust Prime Minister Boris Johnson or Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, their words not to be taken. Is that your view as well?
On that foundation, we built the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. It's very much based on trust, because I think for the first time in the history of the European Union, we actually accepted that the external controls and checks on our external border will be actually performed by UK authorities. This, breaching of the international law makes it very difficult, and it's very damaging to our mutual trust.
Does it make it difficult for you to trust these people when you're trying to negotiate?
I always do the positive attitude to my interlocutors, and I have always respect for them, because They are representing their country, they are representing their political interest, and I always hope for the better. I mean, that's, I think, what we diplomats need to do. But of course, I have to say that since March of the last year, we have permanent threat of unilateral measures, Article 16 announcements, and now we have the draft bill, which is clearly illegal and which is, of course, making our life here very difficult. And therefore, I hope that with the proposals which we put on the table yesterday, we fleshed them out in very concrete form, that we can bring our UK partners back to the negotiating table, because I think we need to find the good solution.
Well, let's get on to some of the proposals that the UK and the European Union have suggested. You just said it again. You are convinced that the UK has acted illegally in laying this legislation in the UK Parliament that will overwrite parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol agreed in the withdrawal treaty by the European Union and the UK back in 2020. To quote your comments yesterday, you said there's no legal or political justification whatsoever for changing unilaterally an international agreement. The UK government, you know, has a very different perspective to you. They say that this has legal justification. They use the doctrine of necessity in international law, which allows a state to act in the event of a grave risk to their interests, which is what the UK government has concluded. So I put it to you that that might be your perspective, but that's certainly not the perspective of the government in London.
I honestly think that you don't have to be a lawyer to see that this draft bill is clearly illegal, and I just would give you one very clear example. I mean, there is no way that the UK would decide what kind of goods may enter into the European single market. Our UK counterparts, they knew perfectly well what they are signing up to, and I have to say that if it comes to the Northern Ireland specific solution, the Northern Ireland Protocol, it was express wish of this UK government. So they've been negotiating with us line by line. We've been jointly looking for the solutions, how to protect peace in Northern Ireland, how to avoid the hard border, how to make sure the Good Friday Belfast Agreement is respected in all its dimensions, and the protocol was the result. So that's the only solution after arduous negotiation and looking at it from all the sides, which is now being undermined. So what we are offering here is permanent solution. The USA is following this very, very closely. I mean, when I was in Washington, D.C. a couple of months ago, I have to say that this was the question which was featured quite prominently in all the meetings I had in the White House, the State Department, and especially in the Congress. And it was just a couple of weeks ago, we had very important congressional delegation here. And first and foremost, what is the most important for the United States, as it is for us, to maintain the peace, respect the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, and to sort it out.
The USA have made it clear to you that they also do not support the UK's unilateral action.
What I heard from our US partners always was work together, work for the joint solutions, and especially in Congress, but also in the State Department and in the White House, they know that the protocol is the answer, but they want us to work out on how to smooth more the operation, how to address these unintended consequences. And this is exactly what we are proposing to do. But to deliver that, we need engagement and political will from London.
And Vice President, I want to get into a bit of the sort of sticking points between the UK and Brussels at the moment. But from a UK perspective, and you will know this, the protocol isn't working in that the UK government's job is to uphold the Good Friday Agreement. You just said it was the most important thing for all parties. But power sharing in Northern Ireland is not happening, and that's as a direct consequence of the protocol. I mean, the government has to do something if they can't get power sharing working in Northern Ireland. You accept that, don't you?
Of course, we do not want to interfere in the internal politics of UK and Northern Ireland. And I think it's for the people of Northern Ireland to decide on all these very important issues. Where we see our task is just to recall that the first two articles in the Protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland, are about full respect of the Good Friday Belfast Agreement in all its dimensions, and second one is on full respect of territorial integrity and constitutional arrangements of the UK, and we fully respect that. Where we differ is the fact that we see that the protocol is actually the solution for maintaining the peace, for protecting the Good Friday Belfast Agreement, and for avoiding a hard border and bringing this additional prosperity to the Northern Ireland economy. And therefore, we are in, I would say, permanent contact with the key stakeholders in Northern Ireland just to present them our view of all these developments.
But the key here are the unionists. As you know, the Democratic Unionist Party will not enter the power-sharing arrangement with the protocol as it stands, and they want wholesale changes, hence the government's legislation. They need to get this work and they need to get the Northern Ireland Assembly. Have you spoken to the DUP about your proposals this week?
I have to say that we are in I would say, permanent contact with the key stakeholders in Northern Ireland, be it Northern Irish business leaders, civic society, but also political leaders. And I invited all political leaders to talk to us, and I'm ready to talk to them at any time. I have met in the past several times with Sir Geoffrey, and I was underlining one very important thing, that we want to deliver on all unintended consequences of the protocol, and we want to do it in a constructive way. What we do not need is a political victory in these debates.
What do you mean by that?
We are not here for political scoring, that the EU is right and the EU prevailed in these negotiations. We really want to solve the problem.
Vice President, you said, though, just to pick up on that, that the EU are not into political point scoring. Do you think that the UK government is partly doing this for political point scoring?
I cannot resist the impression that the tabling of the bill is politically driven. But it's not our role to comment on internal politics in the UK, and therefore our doors for the negotiations will always be open. I'm ready to talk to all political leaders in Northern Ireland, to all stakeholders, and to work on what is the only solution in this difficult situation. And this is joint approach. These are the permanent solutions.
Vice President, you just said that you think it could be something to do with domestic politics in the UK. Are you suggesting, what do you mean by that? What are you suggesting?
I think that what currently we would very much appreciate is the more of a political will to work on these issues jointly.
You don't think the Prime Minister of the UK does? You think that there's another agenda he's following here?
I wouldn't comment on the domestic politics in the UK, but what I can tell you is that already in February we proposed to our UK partners quite detailed roadmap, what we think we should discuss on technical expert level in the period of pre-election campaign in Northern Ireland, and until today we didn't get the response. So what I want to say, if this issue is so urgent, why we didn't use the time more efficiently, why we didn't work on these joint solutions. And
yesterday you announced you'd resume previously paused legal action against the UK for failing to implement the border checks for goods arriving from NI to GB. I put it to you that that doesn't really resolve anything. It just escalates the situation further.
What I have to say is that, as you know, we put our legal action in freezer last year, and it was also the gesture of a goodwill from our side, because we wanted to create conducive space for the negotiations. But as I told you, there was a radio silence from London since February. We got this unilateral draft bill, which is really damaging the trust in our relationship, and we just simply have to defend our interests. So we have to start the legal action. But again, what is very important to underscore, we would act proportionate, we would be gradual in our responses, because we want to keep doors open, and we still hope that we will get our UK partners back to the negotiating table.
Can you rule out a trade war? I think you're saying you can't.
What I want to say is that we've been building our new post-Brexit relationship on a very clear fundament. And first one was withdrawal agreement. Part of it is the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. And on these two fundamental pieces, we built the trade and cooperation agreement. But if you pull the rug from under the feet of this construction, then of course we have a fundamental issue with the whole architecture, and therefore we cannot exclude anything.
So you can't exclude a trade war. If you're Boris Johnson in London listening to this, you're thinking, yeah, trade war could come in 3 years' time is the EU process, right? So 3 years' time is after the next election. I mean, in a way, politically, it's meaningless in that it's an empty threat, isn't it, at this point in negotiations?
We are not in the business of threats as a EU, and from the moment one, when we've been negotiating withdrawal agreement, protocol, TCA, we've been the only party, I have to say, which was bringing constructive ideas to the table. And we did it in the course of the last year, despite lots of unilateral actions taken by the UK, and we are doing it now. It was, I would say, a big part of our presentation yesterday was what we offer to solve this problem, how this can be done. And the propositions we put on the table will tick, I would say, all the boxes on what we hear from the Northern Ireland if it comes to SPS controls, if it comes to the customs procedures, and on top of it will bring back permanent solution, will bring back the access to the biggest trading bloc in the world, and I think would really calm down the atmospherics between the EU and the UK.
Let me put it another way then. You can't take the threat of a trade war off the table. I know you don't like the word threat, but you don't really think it's likely. You think that there can be a solution before each side. Neither side wants that as the outcome, do they? You think you can work this out?
Of course, it would be our preference. I mean, therefore we went into this very special, I would say, institutional and agreement setup with the UK, which are really unparalleled. As I would remind and recall once again, we ask the UK to perform the checks on the goods which are entering European single market. How much more we can demonstrate our trust, and we need, that this would be done according to the rules. And of course, we would prefer to have fructuous, normal relationship with the UK, but at the same time, we also have to defend our interests.
Vice President, I just want to bring you quickly on to something else regarding that on the checks. There would be some in the UK government that think they're not enforcing checks now and they just don't enforce any checks. So you're in a situation where the UK government won't enforce any checks on goods going north-south on the island of Ireland, so going from the UK into the European Union. What are you going to do if the UK government did that? Would you at any point put any checks on the border north-south, a hard border on the north-south? Is that a possibility? Do you absolutely rule that out?
I'm absolutely ruling out the hard border. And of course, this would be additional, I would say, illegality in our relationship, and we'll just discuss with the member states and with the European Parliament what should be the course of further action, because indeed we have to make sure that public health, not only of the people in the European Union, but also in the people in the Northern Ireland, is not under the threat. And here maybe one additional point which I would like to make. Until now, I have to say that the convergence between the rules in the UK and the EU been rather big. But if, of course, UK would proceed with this divergence agenda and the standards would simply be more wider apart, then it could be, of course, more and more problematic question, and therefore I think it's quite important to stick to what we agreed upon, that if it comes to Northern Ireland, it would have access to the single market, and that access is based on respecting the EU rules.
Just quickly, though, you've clearly ruled out a hard border on the island of Ireland, north-south. What about the idea of checkpoints or border posts? But you ruled out all of that, no checks, no cameras, nothing on the border.
I mean, we asked for the border points between GB and Northern Ireland, and that was
But that's in the sea.
That was clearly the part of the agreement, and that's actually one issue which we are complaining about in our legal action. And this is how we agreed that we would solve, and therefore we want to stick to the international law, to the agreements we have signed.
Just to round up, how confident are you that this can be resolved? You did publish some suggestions on customs this week. It does seem that the UK intransigence has helped move the European Union a bit. Do you think that we can resolve this, and that the European Union and the UK can properly move on and put Brexit to bed?
I think here we have to follow the very common rule: hope for the best, be prepared for the worst. This is what we will be doing here, and we will be permanently pointing to the huge advantages of our approach over unilateral proposals which came from the UK, because we really have the interests of people of Northern Ireland in heart. We absolutely want to make sure that they would benefit from the access to the single market, from having the possibility to export to 500 million people, and we want to provide them with legal certainty, with clarity, with stability, and for these goals we are ready to work with the UK government and with all political leaders in Northern Ireland.
OK, Vice President, thank you very much. I hope the talks do resume soon, and we'd love to talk to you again in a few months, see how things are going. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.